Well, Hannah, thank you so much for joining us today on the Only Connects podcast. It's a great pleasure really to be speaking with you today. A few weeks ahead of the start of Red January 2026, 11th year this year, I believe.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic movement that we're going to talk quite a bit about today. And I'd just like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to the
Of
listeners.
course. Thank you for having me on. I'm Hannah, the founder of Red January. So Red January is a nationwide campaign. And Red stands for Rise Every Day. So the whole focus is rising each day with the intention of moving in a way that works for you and makes you feel good. We know that winter can be a really challenging time of the year. And we know that activity levels drop. So does mood and energy. So Red is here to support people to move, to help boost their mood.
Fantastic. One of the things I've really loved about Red January, amongst others, is just that really positive purpose. And it's there to support communities in such a positive way with their mental health, well-being, and generally that social connection to other people, which we Bonded very much believe in the importance of. If we just take a step back and talk about how it started, I guess, back 11 years ago, and I'll just give you the opportunity to sort of tell the story of how it came about.
Yeah, of course. So it started with a connection between me and my mum. So my mum experiences depression, and she was going through particularly low periods in the winter. And obviously with it being my mum, it got me thinking about what was out there to support her. And I could see that at that time of the year, people were feeling much more isolated. I could also see that there really wasn't much out there to support us to get outdoors and move. We were becoming much more sedentary. So the first Red January started with me and my mum getting out the door and walking together, which I know for some people listening that might feel really simple, but as for anyone that's experienced depression, that step out the door can be really significant. And the thing that I took from that experience and having spoken to my mum and the impact that it had on her was at the heart of it was that connection between me and her. It was the fact that even when we weren't there together in person walking, we were with each other in support and spirit as well. We'd often message each other, and I remember really vividly my mum taking a photo of her like muddy walking boots, and it was this thing that we were sharing, and we were like rooting for each other, and it's just what makes me so proud actually when I think of Red January now is that essence is still absolutely at the heart of Red January, with my mum and I still messaging each other about what we're up to. But to see that impact on my mum, I didn't want my mum to go into another winter experiencing anything other than this uplifting feeling that you get from sharing an experience. So with my mum's permission, we shared the idea for Red, and it just blossomed into this beautiful community. I remember waking up the first New Year after my mum and I had experienced that together. And so many people were joining like the Facebook group and Instagram and being like, we've been looking for something like this. And it's just, like I say, it's just blossomed since then and just been amazing to see the connections that people have shared, like what me and my mum did 11 years ago.
Fantastic. And just to ask you a question around that, how did you feel from, I guess, the emotional impact of seeing the effects of depression on your mum coming up collectively or yourself with the idea of going out and embracing movement, even in its simplest form, which I certainly connect with, and then being able to go on that initial journey of a year or two and share that experience and almost present that opportunity to other people who may be in a similar position for that same positive impact. You must have felt a whole range of emotions, many of which hopefully were positive, but going from that a very difficult moment, which it's not like a light switch, is it? But going from that very difficult moment through to launching Red January. I mean, it's a fantastic achievement, but you must have felt really positive as well.
Yeah, I did. And it's funny actually, I think the years prior to that, my mum's depression was really debilitating at times. And obviously it's incredibly heartbreaking when you see someone you love going through that experience. And to see my mum, and the one thing I should have said as well, walking for my mum brings joy. And so I've grown up in a family where walking was a massive part of the way that we came together as a family. And it was a way that we could get out and enjoy the great outdoors. It didn't cost anything as a family. And my fondest memories growing up are like going for picnics, opening your tinfoil sandwiches off the back of a walk. And that's the thing that I hold close. And so for my mum, I knew it was something that she found joyful. I knew it was something that had become part of her life prior to her depression as well. But I think having been through that experience with my mum and seen the improvements in her depressive symptoms, it's funny actually, that question that you've just asked, my brain was thinking, actually I came to it really calmly. It was an interesting one. I think in the lead up to it, I'd felt, I guess there was part of me that felt a real responsibility for my mum's happiness, and like I felt quite a bit of pressure, and but then to have experienced what my mum kind of went through, it was just so clear to me that more people needed to have this kind of experience. And I just couldn't see another way forward. Like it was like Red January needs to get out there, because winter is really tough, whether you experience mental health challenges or not. And so I felt really calm. And once I'd got my mum's permission to share our journey, I came to it really calmly. And because to get your mum's permission on those things is a significant thing anyway as a child, but also because I just felt really proud of my mum by the fact that she wanted her story to be shared, because she knew that it would help others. And so almost felt like, let's do this. Let's get that story out there. And then I had no expectations either. I think that's where that calmness came from. I didn't know I'd be sitting here 11 years on talking to you about Red January, and I love that was the experience. That's quite sacred now looking back, that calmness of just, let's see if it can help someone else.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
I actually have similar reflections growing up, where my mum always took us out for walks. My grandparents used to live in the Lake District, and I have quite vivid memories of growing up and spending times walking through fields in the southern lakes and so forth, which was lovely. I think it's reflective of a time as well that, there wasn't the technology that there is around now, but main point being that it's a really positive piece, isn't it? And the aspect of going out for a walk, or even that really inclusive type of movement, can have such significant benefits on our general well-being and mental health. And bringing that thought forward, whilst the world's changed quite a bit in the last 11 years, that fact still remains. And hopefully there's a growing understanding that perhaps there's positive benefit from reflecting back on that, and embracing that, and making time for that movement within our day-to-day lives. So I feel like Red January has come from that place, but it's almost never been so relevant as an important sort of reminder, and to look at how we embrace movement in our day-to-day, when it's arguably as easy as possible as easy as ever been to get through the day without moving because of the advancements in technology and so forth. But if we don't make that commitment, then we don't have the same type of sort of positive well-being opportunities. So as Red January's evolved, as it's moved through the last 11 years, I mentioned, in prior conversations, because we've known one another for a long time now, about how I engaged with Red January, back in 2017. For my personal journey, it encompassed the essence of wanting to move, but also connect with others that were part of the movement and were partaking in Red January. And I found personally in those early years, the ability to find others on social media, particularly like Instagram and Twitter and so forth, that were participating, just added that extra level of enjoyment and I guess connection to a community that was forming in those formative years. It's come along quite a bit since then though, hasn't it? Just want to talk about that sort of first few years of Red January through to today.
Oh, it's so lovely hearing your experience though, because that's the thing that we hope for everyone, is that they have this experience where they feel part of, something that is a shared experience, and they feel part of something really special. And even if people are moving on their own, they don't feel like they're on their own. That's a significant thing, to still feel connection when you're on your own is really powerful. So I'm really pleased that you've had that experience. 11 years on, connection is absolutely at the heart of the Red community, and I spend a lot of time, especially during the winter, getting out there and hearing from Redders. And 9 times out of the 10, the thing that they share with me is enriched connections with others, thanks to Red January. So in families, for example, we've heard that often children can go up to their bedrooms, and parents and children are like ships in the night. They don't really spend much time together. But Red January provides that opportunity for people to come together. So we've heard of new habits that are formed in families that will go and do parkrun together, or they'll go for like a walk on a Sunday or a bike ride on a Sunday during the winter, a time of year that they perhaps wouldn't have done those things. It might be more of a summer thing. So it's been so lovely to see that people are creating those shared moments in person. Predominantly, Red January has been a kind of online community, so we've seen that kind of peer-to-peer engagement of people sharing their own stories, inspiring others. The thing that I love so much about the Red community, but the thing that I really admire from the Red community, and it's taught me a thing or two as well, is around vulnerability as well. Motivation ebbs and flows, we're human. More so in the winter, because you wake up and it could be chucking it down outside and it's dark and it's cold. And what I really admire about the Red community is they share the moments where they don't want to move. And actually there's something really raw and relatable about that too, because that's what life is. And without question, seeing those connections that people have made have shaped where Red January is today, in terms of the experience that people are looking for, which is really real, really relatable, really grounded in what it means to be human, simple, really meeting people where they are in terms of finding movement that works for them and their lifestyle. And so that's at the heart of what Red January is, and that community's, like I said, it's absolutely shaped it. But nothing brings me more joy than hearing about people forming friendships and getting to know their local community better. All of those things that can come from a really beautiful community experience around Red January.
Fantastic. And it's that combination, isn't it, of the movement that we've touched on and talked about, the benefits of that, and scientifically proven benefits, but and also the thousands almost the thousands and thousands of participants, many of whom have fed back and said the aspect of movement has really helped them in their given personal situations. But beyond that, it's not just the movement, it's the connection with the other participants and that social connection, which makes it such a powerful movement really, and has really driven the momentum, I'd suggest, over the years.
I've got a story, sorry, just on that as well. As you were speaking then, I was just smiling because as well as people often wear red when they're moving, which again, the Red community inspired, they want to wear red during that time. And so there's been times, I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but there's been times during January where I've seen someone wearing red, and I've literally run after them because I'm like, oh my gosh, another redder. And it's without question, every time I've met another redder in those scenarios, within minutes, we are connected because we've got that shared experience. It doesn't matter our background, it doesn't matter anything, that goes out the window. But we can really understand and relate to each other because we've chosen to be a part of this thing that will support us to move for our mental health, and we're part of the Red community. And so friendships, I've so many, including you, but like so many friendships have come out of this because we have that common ground, and it's just it's such a beautiful thing. I've never not met a redder that we've ended up like hugging, and it's just really gorgeous. And I would hope that more people get to experience that, not necessarily through Red January, but through other community initiatives as well, because the common ground thing, I think, especially in today's day and age, where there's obviously so much conflict happening out there, to have that thing that we all share is just so important.
Brilliant. And if you don't mind, I'll share a story as well
Yeah.
now, which you're fully aware of, but for the audience as much as anything. Again, from my personal experience, I guess my journey with Red is I started participating in Red 2017 type of time, and then fast forward to COVID from there, in the organisation I was in at that point, we chose to, a couple of weeks before the start of Red January, which isn't an unusual time frame for me anyway, to think about planning more of a community initiative. It was in the context of lockdown, and in our vertical of advertising, a lot of businesses, particularly on the supplier side, for want of a better phrase, so agencies particularly, were struggling quite a bit. There was a real depression on marketing spend. There was a general worry and sort of drop in income, I guess, so financial impact, but a general worry about what the future would be, both for owners of businesses, but also, I think, generally in society. It was like one of those unique periods of time where people were just trying to understand what was going on. So we thought, well, it would be a great idea just to have a shared community experience during a very difficult time, and set ourselves a fun challenge, which ended up being covering the equivalent distance as a community from Newcastle, UK to Newcastle, Australia, which is 23,000 miles, give or take, and cover that distance in the equivalent steps. And it was a hugely positive experience. It broke down, amongst other things, the barriers from a seniority perspective. We had multiple organisations participate. It was all very organic. It was all very informal. We had marketing directors from a couple of big brands locally, I won't mention them obviously, through to the most junior of people. Nothing like that mattered. It was all just individuals supporting one another. I remember one head of marketing from a well-known brand here posting on a LinkedIn group that we set up to share our experience. He'd been on a run that evening. He posted and said, "I've had a really bad day, I'm really struggling, but I just wanted to let everyone know that participating in this sort of community initiative is really helping me at the moment." And there was all the participants were on there. Everyone could see that, whether that individual would have felt comfortable expressing that in a normal environment or working environment. I'd suggest possibly not, but we sort of created this sort of safe environment where it was such a difficult time and everyone was experiencing that time together with the support of Red January. And we did achieve the 23,000 miles. It was probably the week after January that we hit the milestone, but then everyone was like, we should carry on. So we circumnavigated back round, and we ended up doing the same again and ended up completing it at the end of March. But it was a hugely positive experience. We had media owners get involved. ITV were very supportive, but even down to like Google and Twitter, and they were sort of giving us prizes for most miles covered and all these types of things. It was a really fun exercise. So for the following couple of years, we did, I think it was another 3 years after that actually, we did the community initiative, and we continue that community aspect as well. Most recently, we in January of this year, 2025, we partnered with our client NE1, and we had an initiative around glimmers to encourage people to go on certain walks around the city centre, post on social media about it. So I suppose summary being that the initial sort of acceleration of the community aspect of Red January and how we set that up and engaged with it was possibly one of the most positive community initiatives I've ever been involved in.
Oh.
And I think I'll remember it forever, you know, just in the context of that period of time. And like, we were pretty much in lockdown, like, you know, you could go out for a walk, but not much more. So, you know, and obviously participate in other movement, but not as a physical community, but like as a virtual one. So
I love what you've just described, that, because what you shared about that individual's experience of like opening up in a way that they perhaps wouldn't have done, certainly not in like a workplace environment, sorry. That's the other thing about the Red January experience, is exactly that. Every person that I've met, yourself included, you connect with really quickly because people almost let down like any barriers. There's not been an occasion which I've not left a redder and I know something quite personal about them, because it's like that trusted ground, that common ground. And also we all know why we're joining those experiences, because we're supporting our mental health, we're wanting to support other people's mental health. So naturally with that comes like a bit of personal background or some stories, or and so yeah, it's, you peel down the barriers quite quickly, don't you? It's not like this front, it's not you have to show up a certain way, it's this is what it means to be human. And connections are like a massive part of being just that. So yeah, I'm so pleased you've just shared that as an example.
And 100%, I think a slight build to that is that, or to round the circle off almost, is mental health well-being is important to everyone. People have their own challenges. Not just because someone's senior in an organisation doesn't mean that they don't have well-being or mental health challenges. So it's by its very nature an inclusive movement, and I think that aspect is very important to remember. Just on so that was like principally bringing together other businesses and members of those businesses, and then individuals as well. It's a whole business community thing in the end. We had probably a couple hundred people participate in each of those years, really. So it was really well engaged initiative. But on the B2B side, so this is an area where the movement and Red has really focused on, amongst others, in particular things like movement breaks. I know Decathlon have, for instance, been a good supporter of Red, and they've done certain initiatives. And I know from our sort of friendship that you've communicated over the last few years, particularly, that this has been an area of focus for Red. Do you want to share a little bit more about the business side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So when was it, like 3 years ago, we could see that partners like Decathlon had introduced movement breaks as part of their Red January experience with their employees. And they did a survey at the end, and it doesn't come as a huge surprise, but people experienced improved productivity, they felt calmer in the workplace. It really enriched their friendships and their relationships at work more broadly. And obviously, as an organisation, you look at all of that and you think, well, why would we stop? Why would we stop now? Let's keep it going. So Decathlon have continued introducing movement breaks into the workplace. Now when you join as an employee of Decathlon's, it's even in your contract. Like it's a requirement that you need to go out and enjoy movement breaks. And it's absolutely ingrained in their workplace culture. And it's incredible that they have then championed movement breaks alongside Red January. With Bonded, I know, what was it, from last year, introducing movement breaks, you continue to do it as well. And it's just finding ways to make those movement breaks a natural extension of what you do. And that's where we see like the magic happen, is when it just becomes just a simple part of your everyday. But the thing that I know you've experienced as an organisation and Decathlon experienced is, because the senior management as well were really championing it significantly changed the way people that saw having a break. It didn't come with that feeling of, oh, we shouldn't have a break, we need to work through because it's a busy time. It was celebrated. We need to have a break because actually you'll be more productive, you'll be calmer. It's a win-win for everyone. And so it just feels very honoured to have had Decathlon involved in getting that momentum going, yourselves who have just absolutely embraced it as part of your workplace culture. And we've only just scratched the surface. It feels like between all these organisations that have really embraced it and you're experiencing the benefits day in, day out, what can we do as a community to share it with a wider community of organisations as well? And that's something that we want to look at in a bit more detail next year as well.
And we touched on earlier about how often simple changes and small changes can have quite a significant impact. I think for movement breaks, although it may be more complex the bigger the organisation, but I suppose you could do it in smaller teams if the culture allowed. But we've seen it in essence as even the simple changes of having it feels simple to me anyway, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll purposely put it in the diaries and we'll do different things from like a simple Pilates thing, or even like chair yoga, or even just get up and have a bit of a move around, walk around the block. There's different things that we do, all relatively simple. It's that having a break, the refresh, coming back with more energy, but also the connection element of people that they get up off the chairs, they do it together. It's usually quite a good laugh as well. And there we go. And there's another example of that where, we do the festival events that you supported. And I think certainly the Edinburgh ones, all of them, but I know specifically in Edinburgh, they absolutely love the movement breaks, which is fantastic, because we do surveys after these festivals, and consistently a highlight is the movement breaks. And we were the first non-sporting conference to do one.
You were.
Which was great and nice and innovative of us. But so I think point being that it was relatively new thing to do, particularly at that point, and to get such positive feedback from it, it makes you wonder why more events don't do a similar thing.
It's so true. And I find that throughout the whole Red January experience, like things become uncovered and you're like, why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense that we're not. And it's looking at our environments and thinking, where are we naturally more sedentary? Events being an example of, I don't know about you, but I've often joined an event, you're full of energy at the start, and then 4 hours later, naturally as humans, we're like, gosh, I'm feeling really exhausted. I've taken on loads of information. And so to incorporate movement breaks, what was it, like 5 minutes? I think twice in a few hours. We saw people were laughing, connecting as well, getting to know people next to them in a way that when you're sat down, you don't get that opportunity to do that. So it's so brilliant that you got behind that. And it doesn't surprise me that people are like, yeah, this was brilliant. It was great that we got the opportunity to get up and move and have a bit of fun as well.
Cool. And fast forward to this year, January 2026, movement breaks and commitment to this aspect of Red January is a growing aspect of how you're looking to take Red forward. I know we mentioned Decathlon, might as well mention them again. They're committing, for instance, through January to do the sort of free to participate movement breaks in their store.
That's right,
stores, yeah. But there's no reason why, if from an organisation perspective, there's only one aspect of Red January, but businesses can't look to start, and even if it's just an initiative for January 2026 to give it a go, think about how they can incorporate a simple mechanic of even just going out the office, walking around the local block or whatever it is. We find it's just a super nice thing to do. You get to just chat about whatever you want to chat about to people that are participating. But it's not like you need any equipment or anything particular. So that would be a recommendation, certainly from my experience. And that's an easy way, I suppose, if people are listening to this and thinking, well, how do I get involved? That's one way that they could. And moving forward, this social inclusion aspect is an even greater focus, and looking at Red from how you support people with that connection piece. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And, Red Reflection.
Yeah, so one thing to share up front, and I've shared it with you before, is that this year Red January was featured in the World Health Organization's Impact Report. It's the first report that they've done that was focused specifically on social connection, and Red January was included as a community initiative, which was incredibly, just a really proud moment to have it featured in that way, to celebrate what we've known and experienced as part of that community for a decade now. And just generally amazing to see that community initiatives are being recognised and being celebrated, because they are at the cornerstone of all communities, they should be. And so that was a really significant moment in Red January's journey. So from this point on, we're working directly with Dr. Brendan Stubbs, who's the world's leading researcher into movement and mental health. And we've introduced something called the Red Reflection. So now when you join Red January, pre and post January, you'll be invited to take part in a Red Reflection, which is a handful of questions. And one of those questions is focused on social connection. So we want to understand from you how your connections are pre-January, with the ambition that Red January is helping you to enrich those connections during winter. So it's going to be a real focal point for Red January moving forward, because we've seen it, we've experienced it ourselves, we hear it in every story that's shared, that connection's at the heart. So we want to really start bringing that to the fore of everything that we're doing, and to demonstrate the impact that it can truly have, so others can incorporate it into their community initiatives as well.
Fantastic. And I just think it's a great purpose for so many reasons, but it aligns completely with our belief around connection, and then the social purpose strategy that we've evolved here at Bonded, above and beyond our support of Red January, but around looking at the issue of loneliness and, looking at ways that we can help people connect more effectively within their communities. So I think on that note, as we look to draw the podcast episode, unfortunately, to a close, how can people get involved in Red January 2026?
So December 21st, which is the official start of winter, that's where the Red Reflection will be shared. So it will be shared across our social channels at Red January UK, and also on our website, redjanuary.com as well. So it's an invitation for everyone to join, answer a few questions, and then be part of a really, really supportive community.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Hannah.
Thank you, Steve.
It's such a great episode, and love talking to you as always.
Thank you for having me.